And we're going to be talking to you today about the work we're doing on enforcement, appeals and document management. And just a bit of background for this, these things have sort of become priorities from feedback we've had from councils. Councils we've been speaking to have indicated that having services within bots for enforcement, for appeals and delivering some improvements around document management are going to be key for them to adopt bots going forwards. So this really sets us a challenge to rapidly deliver these, build these new services, drawing on our existing patterns, so the ways of working that we've already developed, working alongside planning officers, we know help deliver efficiencies. How can we quickly turn these into new services and improvements across the product? Next slide, please. So the way that we're approaching this is by taking a sort of an expanded design sprint approach. So a typical design sprint takes place in a week, and you have a day, each day of the working week, so 5 days, you spend doing a different part of a project to quickly test and validate ideas. We're running this over a slightly longer period of time, but we are having these sort of focused efforts on mapping, which we've done, really trying to figure out what we know, prioritization, based on the sort of processes that we need to deliver. What do we actually deliver first, and then what do we deliver a bit later on? We've currently just finished some prototyping, how it works, and we've got testing planned for tomorrow and Friday this week. And hopefully at the end, we'll also be able to set a vision for this, so a direction for, particularly for enforcement and appeals, where we're going to go, where we're going to deliver in the short term, but also where we're going to go further on into the future. Next slide, please. So as I said, we've done the mapping process. We were really pleased to have 11 different LPAs, some who'd not yet been involved in bots, taking part with different perspectives. We had technical support officers, planning officers, and managers all contributing to walk us through how they approach enforcement and appeals in their local areas. Next slide, please. And as I said, we've got testing coming up later this week. We've got 10 sessions booked in. We've got 14 officers taking part in those, coming from 10 different LPAs. And this is to really help us improve these services. If you would like to take part in testing, if you would like to see how we're getting on with enforcement and appeals, please do get in touch. I've put my email address there. I was going to drop it in the chat. The chat is not working for us in this room, so I will post it on Slack afterwards if anyone does want to get in touch. Or if someone very kindly can write in the chat and put it in, that would be great. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we want to deliver these rapidly, and that has meant we've had to prioritise what we are going to deliver in the short term. And that's really looking at, by the end of the summer, what services can we have for enforcement and appeals so that they are adoptable by councils. But we know that we need to go further than that, and we want to set a vision of how we will improve. We've heard about the opportunities through various integrations or better use of data that can really make a significant difference to the amount of work that's involved in these processes. So we will set a roadmap for delivering those improvements, and we'll be specific about when they can be expected and what they will be. Next slide, please. So just to dive into enforcement quickly, next slide, please.
Like let us in, you know what I mean?
We've heard about the pain points of manual data entry. Lots of councils have different submission forms that they aren't connected to their back office systems, and it takes up a lot of time just to get cases into the systems. We've also heard about the challenges of managing photos, particularly those that come from site visits, sort of tagging and making sure that they're connected to the right parts of the case. We have seen that there's some opportunities to better filter reports, so make sure that the things that are coming into the systems are specifically related to enforcement and not related to flight tipping or other areas that might not be under the scope of planning teams. And we also think there's an opportunity to do better data capture and picture and notes on a site visit. These are we heard that these are quite key to the process of enforcement and can often have quite a long administration tail afterwards as things are sorted out. Next slide, please. So we've also had an opportunity here to work in a really end-to-end way. So we've worked with the colleagues working on the report breach working group, which is led by councils, as well as the PlanX service team who support report breach to look at the data that's been sent over and how we can improve that. and make that a sort of a reliable submission source. And we've collaborated with colleagues from the Digital Planning Register project to look at the enforcement register requirements, and that's been really helpful because we've got this sort of from submission through to decision and publication pipeline that we've been working on in the same time. Next slide, please. And as I've mentioned, we've had to do a bit of prioritization. So we want to make sure that we can build quickly, we can build on the value out of BOPS already, and we can meet the requirements for procurement. So we will do things like use GovNotify for updating complainants, reducing the burden of emailing out. We'll accept reports as structured data and not have any manual entry. But later on in the future, we might be looking at things like multiple site location definition of GeoJSON or site visit tools for working on site. Next slide, please. And we'll also, one of the things that we think is quite key is to look at how we can embed data underneath the enforcement. So for example, this might be having the required actions that would go on any formal notice as pieces of structured data so that you can track the dates of compliance and those can be seen throughout the system. This helps to sort of have a smarter ecosystem for monitoring and transparency. Next slide, please. Very quickly, I'll go on to appeals. Next slide, please. We've heard that the challenge for appeals is that there's a sort of, they're highly administrative and it's mainly around data sharing the responsibilities for LPAs. But there can be an aspect of collaboration between different officers and that often causes pain. Next slide, please. We've taken the approach to treat appeals as part of a case process rather than having a standalone module. This means that all the case information and files will be available to the officer. They don't need to be transferred over or found from a different place. They'll be working within the case that's there. Next slide, please. We prioritised having ways to streamline document sharing, and again, using GovNotify for contacting interested parties. And then further down the line, looking at API integration for that data sharing and potentially multiple officer enforced assignment to support collaboration. Next slide, please. And one of the things that's really exciting is that we've had the opportunity to talk to PINs around potentials for integration. These probably aren't going to be delivered in the short term, but there are real opportunity areas for data sharing for notifications, document sharing, questionnaire sharing, and for the sort of sharing of key dates and deadlines. And if we are able to deliver on that, we could significantly reduce just the amount of work or burden that falls on LPAs, because a significant amount of it can be automated by just passing documents between the systems seamlessly. I will hand over to Fede.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fede. I'm also one of the designers and researchers working on BOPS. I want to give a brief update on some of the other work that we've been focusing on. So this is the BOPS document management system. So as BOPS grows, we need to expand its overall capabilities, and that includes improving how documents are managed within the case in BOPS. And just to mention, when we talk about document management system, we don't mean a separate tool. We're designing something fully integrated into the BOPS workflow. If you go on to the next slide, please. So what we set out to learn. So as Tom mentioned previously, we're also approaching this like a design sprint. So the first step we set out to learn is how officers and support teams manage planning documents today, where current systems cause friction or confusion, what users actually need from a modern integrated document management system, where and how documents are stored, and how BOPS could help close the gap between today's tools and the workflows planners really need. If we go on to the next slide, please. So we spoke to a range of councils to understand different setups and workflows. So that included Camden, Newcastle, Southwark, Gateshead, Barnet Medway, and Buckinghamshire, each using a mix of different systems like iDocs, iDocs Cloud, Civica D360, and OpenText Content Manager. And this is to get a broad picture of how documents are managed today. If we go on to the next slide, please. So this slide kind of brings together the key themes that came up during the interviews. So version control, so how different versions of documents are managed and organized, the current workflows for redacting and measuring documents. There was talks around how documents are requested and submitted to the case, checking and processing submitted documents. So things like indexing, making sure they've submitted all documents, and that they are all properly formatted. Comparing and validating documents, so how officers judge if the documents meet the requirements. So how do we make it easy for officers to compare documents and versions? Then finally, storing documents, so how documents are saved, accessed, and kept to the record. So for all of these themes, we captured and gathered all the pain points and opportunities that will essentially inform how we design our workflow and capabilities within BOPS. If we go on to the next slide, so just to summarize on the things that we've uncovered. So across all the councils, officers consistently raise the same issues around document management. So in summary, there are too many manual steps, especially during the checking and processing of documents. There is no proper version control, so there are workarounds, but they are not reliable. So for example, the documents versions are not linked to each other, which kind of leads to the third point, which is it's really hard to navigate large case files. So there are many files and versions, and it's just really hard to keep up with. Which leads to the fourth one, which is a risk of viewing and or publishing the wrong version. And also there were what we've uncovered is the more the planner has to switch between systems, the more mistakes are made. So we obviously want to tackle all of these pain points. And if we go on to the next slide, we've already started mapping out the high-level stages along with user needs that will help solve the problems that I previously mentioned. So we're using this map to start kind of shaping ideas and prototyping, what a better and more integrated document experience in BOPS might look like. And we will update you once we start testing and getting feedback from planners. And I will hand this over to Laura.
Thanks, Fede. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm another one of the designers at Unboxed. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the route to market research that we've been doing. If I can have the next slide, please. So a couple of months ago, we introduced this work that we were planning to do. It was really about understanding some of the barriers to procurement of BOPS and how we can get BOPS and other products within ODP adopted at scale. And we really wanted to start to identify who our early adopters might be. So I'm just going to talk to you about what we've been doing over that couple of months. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to share all the insights today, but I just wanted to share one. This is a quote from somebody that we spoke to. I really want BOPS to succeed. I love what ODP is trying to do. So this was a very common sentiment amongst many people we spoke to. Generally, a lot of support for what we're all trying to do here. So there's a really big opportunity for us. Next slide, please. So people that have been working on this are myself, Martin and Tom from Unboxed. We've also been having regular meetings with the commercial spin-off group within ODP to review insights as we go, and they've helped us kind of shape our thinking as to what to do next and give some oversight to the project. And I also just want to thank everyone within the wider ODP community who've been incredibly supportive of this research, making connections for us and building new relationships. Next slide, please. So these are the things we wanted to look at. Obviously, we wanted to get an understanding of the market, who's likely to buy BOPS, what kind of features they need, what factors influence their wanting to buy it, what kind of differentiates Box in terms of product positioning, what kind of pricing strategy will be attractive to councils, what kind of awareness and engagement activities are going to work. And then we wanted to do a bit more understanding challenges around onboarding, transition and migration, and then a bit around how we continue to improve the product and keep up the approach that we've been using throughout this work. Next slide, please. So we've been able to speak to 52 people across 29 LPAs, which has been fantastic. 4 of those are councils that haven't been involved in ODP so far. And then the majority of those are using an iDocs product, but we also spoke to a few using Arcus M3 and MasterGov, because we wanted to get a range of insights from people using different systems. Next slide, please. We also made a lot of effort to speak to people in different roles. So lots of people within planning, but also people outside of development management, people in procurement, IT, systems admin, transformation, people that can give us really different perspectives on the procurement process and how that works within their council. Next slide, please. So this shows you where the councils are that we spoke to. If anyone's interested, we have a more interactive version of this map that gives you a little bit more detail on the size of that council, what product they're using, and so on. But as you can see, we did get quite a good spread around the country, and obviously quite a few councils within London there as well. If you go on to the next slide, please. So another thing we want to do is get a spread in terms of the size of councils we're talking to. So as a sort of rough measure, we use the sizing categorization that PlanX use. So small being fewer than 595 applications per year, and so on, as you can see at the bottom of the slide there. So most of the councils we spoke to were in the medium range, but we got quite a good coverage of the others too. Next slide, please. So what has all this meant? We've been sharing insights as we go. We didn't want to do the research and then sort of hand it over to the Box delivery team. We are working side by side, and we've been feeding these into the Box roadmap. So you just heard from Tom and Fede about the work that's been going on around enforcement, appeals, and document management. That's the work that we've done has helped to prioritise that work, because councils told us these were critical for adoption. And then on the bottom line there, you can see the other things that we prioritise. So these are things where we need to learn a bit more about what they are and what the needs are. So what we're doing is really scoping out what councils need around things like land charges, trees, S106 and SIL management, and data migration. And then we can start to make decisions about whether this is something we should build ourselves or whether there are other partners we can work with to deliver these features. And then the final slide, we move on to the next one. Just a shout out to everyone, really. So we think we've started to identify who some of our early adopters might be, but obviously we haven't spoken to every council in the country. So if you think your council could adopt Box in the next 18 months, come and talk to us. Talk to Martin or myself. We can just have a quick initial chat if you like, or you want to hear a bit more about what we've been doing. We'd love to hear from you. That's it from me. I think I'm handing back to Matt.
Super. Thank you very much, Box team. Are there any questions for the team before we move on? Lots of stuff on show there, so yeah, fantastic. Okay, just a reminder, please do reach out. We'll make sure the emails are all in the chat as well if people do want to get involved and support the product, as that I'm sure will be greatly appreciated. But let's move on. Okay, so we are going to talk to PlanX now. Are you with us?
I am, yeah. Thanks very much, Matt.
No worries, over to you.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I'm David. I'm one of the full stack developers working on PlanX, and we've been working on lots of features recently. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you about templates in a future show and tell. But right now, we're going to zoom in and look at some of the recent changes we made to the send components and some of the associated integrations with that. So if you can get the next slide, please. So the way we work at on PlanX, we really like to have like a really initial MVP version, and then as we get feedback, we try and improve it. We're very lucky to work so closely with the editors within the platform and the council officers to gather that feedback. So the send component, when it was initially introduced, was relatively simple in terms of the data displayed and the functionality. And over time, that's grown. And we've been listening to feedback and improving this, and really just trying to improve some of the pain points that were associated with editors are testing across different environments. So we can see here that what we've done now is we made it much clearer as to which destination applications will get submitted to, whether that's staging or production, and that will vary based on the environment the user is using this component within. Likewise, if someone is using the send to email feature, we'll highlight exactly which inbox that's going to and link to the settings page where that can be updated. Also, we've renamed the Power Automate Microsoft SharePoint integration to make that much clearer. Again, I think with the previous name, Upload to S3 wasn't particularly clear, so we've listened to feedback here and updated that. And as there's a bit of configuration required for that, we've also linked to the documents, our help documents explaining how to do that. And finally, we've got the current uniform integration. That's only going to be shown to the council for which that's currently available. So yeah, a few small tweaks here, but hopefully adding up to make a much less painful experience and make things much clearer when people are using this component, and hopefully it makes it much more intelligent to understand how they could use it if they're not using all those features now. It's much clearer now what's possible for them. So if I can get the next slide, please. Related to that, we've also been working on the email templates that we use. So similar to what Tom was mentioning there at BOPS, we also use the Gov Notify platform, which is a really powerful platform allowing us to, we use it to send emails. It has all sorts of other features as well. And what we do is we use the kind of templating system via our send to email integration to send that to council inboxes, as the previous slide showed. Now, what we've been doing, it was clear from feedback that the current templates we're using didn't really include enough information, and it was adding time to, work out the assignments for validation officers, where people will need to maybe click in and get more data from the attached link before knowing who to assign it to. We're all about kind of reducing that time and simplifying this. So what we've done is we've added more data here so that at first glance, it's much clearer to validation officers what this is relating to, which team that should go to. I've lost the slides there for a second. I'm not sure who was sharing. Is that just me that's lost that?
No, everyone, I think, or me too.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'll just pause until that comes up. So I've got like a visual aid.
Are you able to share the screen yourself?
I'm trying to
let's do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Apologies, guys. My Teams just dropped on me.
No worries, Matt. Are you able to reshare? Would you like me to do it?
I will bring it straight back.
Thank you so much.
There we go. Just give me a thumbs up. That should be with you.
Back as we were. Perfect.
Sorry about that.
No apologies needed. So where was I? Yeah, I was just saying that we've added more data fields in there to make sure that the kind of the high level information is much more apparent up front, and it doesn't require further drilling in to download a bunch of files before you can work out what's the next step for this submission. And in addition to those additional fields, what we're going to do is add more templates as well, so that rather than trying to fit everything into a generic one size fits all, what we're doing now is going to have different email templates for different types of services, which again, we hope is going to simplify and going to streamline. And again, as I said, it's really nice having that feedback, trying an initial prototype version, seeing what works, seeing what the pain points are, and then addressing that and just continuing that process. And it's, intentionally a never-ending process, so that, when the new templates roll out, when the new data fields are there, hopefully we'll gather more feedback and work out what the best approach is to take next, whether this works for now or whether we need further changes in the future. And then next slide, please. Perfect, thanks. Similar to that, as I said, we're looking at the changes to this send integration. When we have send to email, we send a collection of files along to councils' inboxes, and we really have an ethos of trying to send data, not documents, wherever possible. So what that really means in practice is if we're able to send a machine readable format of something, whether it be application data or geospatial data or anything else, we'd really like to try and make sure we send that along. It's not going to be suitable for all use cases, but I think we're kind of trying to avoid putting something into, a hard-coded PDF and that being the only format. What that would potentially mean is that any integrations happening after it's been sent may, we're adding a step of complexity without having passed out and read. So we always try to hold to that ethos as best we can for as long as we can. However, we do, of course, send documents along, such as applicants' uploaded images and other kind of overview documents. And we've been talking recently to council partners to try and work out which of those files are currently in use, what's valuable, what's not valuable, just so that we can kind of reassess this a little bit. I think what's really spurred us to have this conversation is how impressed we've been with certain council partners working on the Power Automate solutions. It's quite amazing how quickly they've been able to develop some of those solutions, which allow them to take the data that they get from Plan X and develop their own documents, which meet their exact requirements. So rather than that being a burden on us and us trying to fit something generic, which works for everybody, we can actually pass data along, and then councils can actually build their own outcomes and get exactly what they want. So it's almost like a win-win when we've seen that working. So that's kind of spurred this conversation, as I said there. What we've come to as a conclusion, this has not been implemented yet, and we're still carrying on that discussion. As I said earlier, it's never a shut door. We're open to all feedback. We are looking to remove the redacted documents we currently send, as they aren't used. And as mentioned earlier on, BOPs are looking at that redaction step. That's also handled in other platforms as well. We're also looking to remove the CSV file, which isn't used. And we want to make sure that the files we do send much more closely match what an applicant sees. So that will hopefully, again, make this a much clearer process, much more standard process with some of these files. And there's also some files we'd love to add. There's the map and label component, which could have some exciting opportunities for some quite rich geospatial data, and as well as new document types in future. So very much open to feedback about what's useful, what's not useful, what we think is missing. So please do reach out if you've got thoughts there, or you can go via the normal channels to get that feedback to us. And that's me today talking about some of those changes to send and the files we send along. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat, or I can address them now or later, whatever works best. I believe I'm passing on to Hannah next.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, just pause for questions there if anyone's got anything. But if not, please do reach out. All right. Let's continue. Hannah, are you with us?
I am, yes. Would you mind letting me take over the screen sharing?
You are more than welcome. Over to you.
Just got to find the right window. There we go. Obligatory thumbs up for everybody. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, you're all good.
Excellent, fantastic. So my name's Hannah and I'm the tech lead on the DPR project. And I'm going to quickly walk you through some of the work that we've been doing to implement searching and filtering comments on the digital planning register. Just first of all, I just want to clarify some of our naming choices. I do tend to use them interchangeably. So on the DPR, we refer to neighbour responses as public comments and consultee responses as specialists. And this is because in some of our earlier testing, we found that people found the term consultee confusing because technically neighbours are consultees and also neighbours aren't necessarily neighbours. So we've just sort of clarified and we use the terms public and specialist. So if I use them interchangeably, just so that you're aware of what I'm talking about. So the searching and filtering work is guided by our coded prototype. So we're using our coded prototype as a reference when we're building new features. And the prototype shows us what we're aiming to do. And then we use this to sort of work out what we need to do in order to complete those tasks. And the first thing that we did when we started looking at implementing searching and filtering was update the API implementation guidance. This lives in the API, the ODP repo, sorry. And what we basically use it for is making sure that it supports all of the features that are in the schema, and it lists all of the endpoints and all of the various things that we're going to need in order to filter and search. But because we're working in the open, rather than put it into our tickets and everything, we sort of use this as a source of truth. So if we ever need to get any feedback quickly or have a discussion about certain things, for example, topics, it's just useful to have something out in the open so that we can all reference the same document. So yeah, as I said, we just needed to make sure that the back end was going to be able to support things that we have in our prototype. So things like searching comments by full text, pagination, the results per page, sorting and ordering by relevant fields, as well as the more specific things like filtering by topic, sentiment, and all the various dates that are associated with comments. I'm now going to attempt a demo. Let's see how well this goes. So this is currently their staging site. And I'll just start with the public comments. Specialist comments are hidden right now, but they're pretty much identical. But this particular council instance doesn't have specialist comments enabled. So you can see that we show a list of comments, and we can do lots of things. For example, we can change the number of comments per page. Let's see if we have 50 comments for this one. Oh, we do. We've got quite a few comments. So we can change the number of results per page. I can also reset my search. And I can also search by comment content. So let's see, let's just search for the number 26 and see what comes up. So comment number 26, that one shows up. And if I clear the search again, I can also change the order. All of these were published on the same day. In reality, that probably won't be the case. So the only way to see that sorting has really changed is by looking at the ID for the moment. But you can see that the order changes. So under the hood, we are using feature flags to hide functionality that we're not able to support right now. We've set up filters according to the API implementation. So we're just adding in support for those into BOPs. And when that's done, what we'll do is we'll turn off the flag, and then suddenly the feature will appear. So it's already implemented on the DPR side. It's just not visible because the backend isn't supporting it right now. Comments was kind of our guinea pig. It was sort of a small contained area. So there was a lot of sort of technical things and ways of working and things that we needed to iron out. So we chose comments as our sort of way of testing how we were going to implement these things. And that means that when we go on to implement the searching and filtering for documents and the application searching, it should be much easier because we've ironed out, hopefully, she says, all of the kinks in the process. Other things that we'll need to look at doing is obviously adding the support for the other options that we can filter by into the back end. And also the public and specialist comment schemas have been changed slightly. So for example, the specialist comments, they have a lot more fields involved, and they also have threaded replies. So you're able to view all of the responses. So that's something that isn't supported right now, but that's what we're going to be working on in the future. So hopefully that's given you a good idea and a good overview of how we're implementing the comment search and filtering. If you've got any questions, just let me know. I can't actually see the chat, so someone might have to read out the comments. It's not loaded for me this morning.
Thanks, Hannah. I haven't seen anything through yet. So yeah, if anyone does have anything for Hannah, please shout. And if not, if something comes to mind post-session, then please do reach out. I'm sure Hannah and the team will be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, that's it from our three product teams this morning. So yeah, if there are no additional questions on anything you've seen today, we will make sure that the recording is shared post-call along with slides, so you can take a look at your leisure or share with anybody that missed the session. But thank you ever so much for your attendance. Hopefully, as always, you found it helpful to see what the teams are up to. and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Thanks
all.
everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.